Hello, everyone. I am Michael Steelman, Director of Alumni Career Management and Professional Networks for William Mary, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to day one of William Mary's 5th Annual Professional Development Week. This year's programming is intended for the entire William Mary community of students, alumni, faculty, staff, parents, and friends. We will cover a variety of topics relevant to people at all points of their career journey, and our discussions are rooted in the National Association of Colleges and Employers Career Competencies. Career and self-development, communication, equity and inclusion, leadership, professionalism, teamwork, and technology. We are truly grateful for the continued engagement of our William Mary community to support one another's professional success. And I want to acknowledge and thank all of the William Mary Professional Network's leaders, speakers, and William Mary colleagues who provided the guidance, support, and expertise to make this week possible. I'd like to specifically thank Kelly O'Shaughnessy, who partnered with me this year to curate a week of relevant topics and learning objectives for our William Mary community. Today, we will focus on the importance of growing your brand and the tools which will help you get from wherever you are in your journey to a dream career. Later this afternoon, we will learn LinkedIn tricks to recession-proof your career. Before I turn things over to our guest presenter, I just have a few technology items to cover. Today's session is being recorded, and we will notify all registrants once the recording is available. Questions are welcome, and we will address as many questions as time will allow. If you roll over the bottom portion of the Zoom window, you should see a Q&A icon appear. Please use that feature to submit your questions, and we will monitor the Q&A and chat throughout the hour. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Kirsten Jones. Kirsten, a Hall of Fame D1 volleyball player from William & Mary and a 15-year Nike executive, is now a motivational speaker, writer, and peak performance coach. She helps her clients, including teen athletes and their parents, reach their goals and release their limitations. She co-hosts the Raising Athletes podcast with Susie Walton and is so excited for the release of her first parenting book, Raising Empowered Athletes, on August 8th. Kirsten and her husband are raising 3 athletes themselves in Los Angeles, California. Kirsten also coaches club volleyball and enjoys hiking in the Santa Monica Mountains with her white lab puppy. Of course, she also spends her weekends watching her own kids play their sports. Kirsten, it is a pleasure always working with you. You've been a terrific volunteer and leader in the William Mary community alumni base, and really looking forward to this hour with you today. Thank you.
We did it. Third time's a charm. Good morning, William and Mary. Good afternoon from, you're in the afternoon. I'm in the morning still in rainy Los Angeles. I am so grateful to be here. Thank you for welcoming me back. I love collaborating with peak performers, and that's what William and Mary students, athletes, community is all about. So grateful for this opportunity. Settle in. This time is for you. This time is you to focus on yourself. We spend so much time doing, going to class, writing the paper, working out for ourselves. Now it's a time to sit and to hopefully, glean a couple little morsels that if you could walk away with a few things that inspire you that you can put into your daily practice, that's my goal. So if you see this image here on the right of the tree, I'd like you to just close your eyes for just a few seconds here and visualize this tree. Visualize the biggest, most beautiful oak tree you've ever seen, with big, huge, beautiful branches and green, golden leaves in a sun-drenched day. As you're sitting under this tree, you hear little squirrels running around. You may even hear a mother bird feeding her little ones in the nest. And you lean against this tree and you're sitting under the branches and you feel safe. And you feel enough. And you feel at peace. And what you realize is actually beneath you are these roots that go down, 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 down into the earth. And that's what helps you root. And the firmer your roots can go down into the earth, you can find that aqueduct down there and that water source. And now you are continuously feeding yourself. And not if, but when the headwinds blow, when the winds change, I understand rain is coming later today, you're strong. You are this tree and you are grounded deep down into the earth. That's what happens. The clearer we get on who we are and what we're going for, the easier it is for us to face these headwinds. So I'm Kirsten Jones. I'm a peak performance and sports parenting coach, as Michael mentioned. My journey was not a straight line. You may be one of the fortunate ones. I know William & Mary is such an academic institution that kids come out of there and they know exactly what they want to do. And if you do, that's so wonderful. And I'm so happy for you. But about 75% of us, I'll touch on a little later, don't. And my path was all over the place. I grew up in Montana playing every sport under the sun. I ended up walking on at San Diego State to play volleyball there, having barely played volleyball much at all. And then I had this gift from heaven when Debbie Hill reached out to me, and I went to William & Mary for 2 years and had an amazing experience that then took me to Europe. Even with a Japanese degree, I moved to Eastern Europe. And found Nike over in Vienna, Austria, and worked for Nike for almost 15 years in Vienna, Stockholm, Amsterdam, and world headquarters in the footwear business. So I'm going to share some fun Nike stories about that experience and about, the learnings that I had as I went through that. Post Nike, I was in San Diego for a few years, and while I was there, I got this idea that I love helping others figure out what's holding them back. We all have things, we all have limiting beliefs, we all have things that get in our way. And what if somebody could give you the gift of helping you identify what that is and helping you release it? Most of the time it's in between our ears. And when we do that, we're free to go do other things. So the last 7 years I've been in LA, as he mentioned, I have a podcast, I have a book coming out. We'll get into a little bit of that later, but that's a little bit about me. Let's focus on you. You are a brand. If I was to put a billboard up about you in New York City, think about that. What would that look like? And think about, when you think about you being a brand, what is your mission? What is your vision about your life? What are your values? When I think about great brands, I think about Tide. Because my mom used Tide. I use Tide. I still use Tide. Why? Because my mom believed that it got clothes clean. As simple as that. So there's a lot of great brands out there, but what are the values that company exudes? Kind of like Nike. It's peak performance. It's ultimate, for athletes. You are a brand as well. So let's talk about, what that journey looks like. For a lot of us, the expectation is, we'll graduate, we'll get we'll major in X, we'll get a job in Y, we'll work in that field for numbers of years, and we'll work our way up the corporate ladder. We'll live happily ever after. And that might still happen. If you're a doctor or a lawyer, or, perhaps you actually take that path and that's what you're passionate about. And that's, again, amazing. But a lot of us, when we're making a decision at 18, is not who we're going to be at 30 or 40 or 53 in my case. So about 25% of us will actually do our career, whatever we chose at 18, and go all the way through life and be completely happy and fulfilled and loving it, right? But there are over 30 million of us, ages 44 to 70, I know that might feel like a lifetime away for you, that are questioning, gosh, did I love that at 18, but I don't love it now at 40. In fact, I met with an alum over the phone the other day who's 41, and she's, gosh, I want to be doing what you're doing, but I'm a science teacher and I'm a volleyball coach, and now I don't know that that's what I want to do. And here's the really good news. We can always pivot. We can always figure out what's next. And the first step is identifying the what and the why. And when you figure out the what and the why, the how appears. So what we tend to do a lot as human beings, human nature, is we give our power away. Well, I didn't get into that school, so this isn't going to happen. Well, I didn't get an A in that class, so this isn't going to happen. Well, I applied for that job and I didn't get it, so it's not meant to be. Wrong. When you take your power and you focus on these things, this slide I have in every presentation I give, because these 10 things require zero talent. It's not about how high you can jump. It's not about your GPA. It's not about who you know. This is about how you show up every day. And you, 100%, this is within your control. And I can guarantee you that any coach, any professor, any hiring manager, 10 out of 10 will take the employee that's going to show up and be that every single day, even if they're less talented. There's a great book by Stephen Kotler, and if you've read any of his work, I'm going to quote a bunch of different books. That's what I love to read, and I'll have my list of books at the end for you to share, and you can find them on my website too. But I love sponging books and figuring out where the best knowledge is coming from. And one of the biggest things is, as I talked about getting clear on your mission, it's getting clear on your goals. So Stephen Kotler worked with really ridiculous athletes, the guys that surf like those 50-foot waves in Hawaii, the ones that skydive and ski out of, heli ski out of airplanes. And he really studied flow and what does it mean to get into flow. And flow is when things are happening and you don't even know how it's happening. It's just kind of, you're just like when you're playing your best soccer match and you just score the goal and you don't even think about it. It just goes. That's flow. Flow can happen in the classroom. If you've ever gone to a concert and you see Taylor Swift on stage, she isn't thinking about what word is next. She's flowing. She's just up there performing. And that's what we all have the ability to tap into flow. And one of the key ways to do that is to identify what your goals are. So he talked about impossible goals with a big I and impossible goals with a little I. So the difference between impossible goals are big I we don't know how to fix climate change. It's never going to happen that we're going to live on Mars. It's never going to happen that we're going to cure cancer. Those are the big I goals that we talk about. Little I goals are, I've never done it. I've never written a book. So I know there's people that have, but I've never gotten a D1 scholarship. I've never gotten into the grad program that I dreamed of getting into, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. And when you look at these examples, Greta Thunberg, nobody came knocking on her door in Sweden at age 14 and said, hey, do you want to take on climate change? She at 14 decided, this is my passion. This is my massively transformative purpose. I am going to spend my life focused on this. Okay. Newsflash, we don't all have massively transformative purposes. And if you don't know what yours is, you're fine. Don't worry about it. We don't all come out of the womb knowing exactly what we want to do, but you need to be curious. The goal is to be curious about what is it like, and that's something to write down right now. Like if I could spend my day, and I often when I work with clients, I say, tell me your perfect day. You don't have anywhere. Would you sleep in? Would you get up early? Would you fly to Paris? You can go wherever. You don't have a budget. You can do whatever you want. What would you do and how would you create the perfect life? Roger Bannister, nobody has ever run a sub 4-minute mile, ever. Nobody's done it. It's impossible. Well, Roger Bannister in 1956 runs a sub 4-minute mile. Within a month, 15 other people ran a sub 4. Now over 1,500 people have run a sub 4-minute mile. So it's impossible until somebody does it. And then when you do it, oh yeah, no, everybody does that, right? Well, it's Sarah Blakely was a copier salesperson in Florida who schlepped around in the heat and the sweat, but would sit in her car listening to self-help, motivational, and she would journal and she would write down positive affirmations and she would come up with these ideas. And one day she realizes, I'm sitting here in these pantyhose and they're killing me and I don't want to do this. And she's like, what if I cut off the pantyhose, but I still had the support around my waist? Well, nobody's asking her to create something that already exists. We already have pantyhose. We don't need that. She went to a dozen different companies and they said that already exists. She's a billionaire now because she decided that this is something that's going to change women's lives. She showed up at the Neiman Marcus buyer's office, she modeled them for her, and the woman said, all right, well, we'll give it a try. I don't really believe in it. She showed up at the Nordstrom and would stand by the counter and say to the women, hey, have you tried this? This is really good. You should. Then one day, Oprah comes calling. She finally gets it into the marketplace. Oprah comes calling, says, we want you to be on Oprah's list. So can we come to your offices and see what you've created? She calls her best friend who's a teacher and says, we're going to need you to come home from your teaching job because you need to be the head of sales and marketing because Oprah is showing up at my apartment and I need you to push the boxes away. It all starts with an idea, with I wonder what's possible. And then what comes are these high, hard goals. So what am I going to do? How am I going to do that? Then we get into the how. That's the worst thing that we've got going on our heads. But how am I going to, get into that school? And how am I? That's not your job to figure out. Your job is to figure out the what, which is what can I do today in service of, you want to become whatever the next, you want to get into that medical school, you want to get this job with this company. What can I do today that will give me the skills that will make me attractive? When I worked at Nike, I worked in the footwear. I ran the footwear internship program and had 17,000 applications for 200 spots in the summer. And people would say, I'm a physics major, but I really want to work for Nike. Okay, go work for Foot Locker. Go do an internship with somebody else. Go work for Dick's Sporting Goods in Pittsburgh, if you're from Pittsburgh, because that's going to give you parallel experience that will help show Nike. Your physics major, which will probably help at some level at Nike, but show me something that you've done that correlates to the brand. So what are those daily habits? And I'm going to get into those and how do we define those in a minute. So Paul is a client of mine from a couple of years ago, graduated top of his class at University of Miami, was the head of the Miami Law Review. It was just easy. He said, I could just, I could write the briefs and it just all came to me. He said, but when I think back, he's now 40, but when I think back at 22, my favorite class was creative writing. He's like, I got an A+ in creative writing. But my dad had lost his job and we didn't have any money. And we said, you're never going to be able to pay for a career. And what are you going to do with creative writing? So I pursued the law thing because it was easy. He's like, but I'm miserable. But it's too late. I'm too old. Now I'm married. I have a kid. I can't pivot. I have to do this. No, you don't. It's never too late. If you have a passion, I'm not saying you just flip the switch and go from being a defense trial lawyer to being a screenwriter and make a bunch of money, but you can start to build a plan. And that's what I worked with him on, was what are the things that can help you move in that direction? Because really, when we think about our lives, it's very similar to product creation, right? There's an inspiration, then there's ideation, and then there's implementation. And life is like that. It comes in waves. It's seasonal. Just like this, it's going to rain today, and then the sun's going to come, and then it's going to get cold. It's seasonal, and so are our lives. There isn't ever this is the way it always is. This is the way it's going to stay. But when you get into that idea of, I wonder, I see what she's doing, and that actually looks really cool. Now I'm going to go talk to her and get some ideas that may aspire, or she might have a connection to, or what if I prototype it by just getting an internship or working for free. This woman that I talked on the phone with, she lives in Florida. She's like, I want to come out. I'm going to spend a week with you this summer. I just want to watch you and see what you do. Right. It's like, I don't know how exciting that's going to be, but you can come. But that's the right idea. Like figuring out where is it that you can learn and grow and develop. And what we said at Nike and what a lot of brands say is fail forward fast. The faster you fail, the quicker you can learn. And the quicker you can pick yourself up. I really doubt that even Mike Trout came out of the womb being a superstar. Yet we see him as a superstar because when we click online, we see, oh, wow, he's supernatural. It all just happened for him. I don't know Mike Trout. I haven't interviewed Mike Trout, but I'm guessing there were a few stumbling blocks along the way. We all have them. The hero's journey is about overcoming adversity. And when we do that, that is when we learn about who we are. And when we learn who we are, then we grow, and then we take another step in the direction that we want to go. As Ken Robinson, who gave a very famous TED Talk, if you haven't heard it, I highly recommend you check it out. If you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original. So anybody who's in that creative space is trying things, failing, getting up, starting out all over again. And I feel one of the disservices to you, speaking to the undergrads right now of your generation, is we have this perfectionist thing going on that you got to be perfect and you got to get straight A's and no, you don't. Life is not about being perfect. Life is about taking some chances, having it not go so well, evaluating what happened, and trying either something similar or trying to pivot around. So really there are three things around goals that I want to talk about today. The biggest thing is around growth mindset. And then what are you saying to yourself about, we have what happened, and then we have the story about what happened or what's happening. And then how are we building the muscle of building perseverance over adversity? Because it is a muscle, just like going to the gym, being strong and coming back and trying something new, trying something different. It's a muscle. So when Apple was inventing the mouse, there's a man I'm going to talk about a little bit. He wrote a book, but he was the guy who invented the mouse at Apple. He was the number 2 employee at Apple. And when he invented the mouse, he was like, never had a mouse before. We don't know it. I mean, computers have never existed before. So what do we need? Do we need 1 button? Do we need 2 buttons? Do we need it to slide? So he said, we would just be really curious. We had 15 different iterations of what a mouse could be. Now we think, well, didn't they just always have a mouse? No, these are something that as a designer, he's like, it was a problem to solve. So the same is true of your life. Be curious, try stuff. What's the worst thing that happens? Oh, wow, that didn't go well. Reframe what the problem is. Oh, okay. So if we don't need 3 buttons, what is it going to look like? Okay, if I don't really want to be, even though I'm down this, architecture path, but that's not really what I want to do. What do I need to do? What pieces of that? Because P.S., I was a Japanese major, Hajime Mashite Dozo Yoroshiku. I'm not really using that anymore, but I think it was a very valuable piece of me to learn about myself, to push myself in a different way, to go be a 6-foot-tall blonde in Japan was definitely an interesting experience. And knowing that it kind of pushed me, oh, this is what I want. And that's how I got to Nike. And probably the biggest thing is asking for help, figuring out who are the helpers, who can give me insight into this. Success leaves clues. Whoever's doing this already, there's probably somebody doing this. Reach out to them. I always get, it's so fun to hear from people that were like, oh, I pinged so-and-so who's like world famous, and he wrote me right back. I mean, now with digital, everything's digital. These people are actually there. They're on the other side. You never know unless you ask. So this is the gentleman I was talking about. William Burnett and David Evans wrote this book, Designing Your Life. It's the #1 class at Stanford. So I read this book probably 5 years ago. One of my best friends played volleyball at Stanford. I was telling her all about it. She's on the alumni, network or whatever. And so she says to me, oh, these 2 guys that teach the class at Stanford, they're coming to speak in LA. She's like, do you want to come with me as my guest? I'm like, absolutely. And go downtown Los Angeles, this gorgeous Marriott. I walk into this ballroom. There's 500 Stanford alum in this room. And you're thinking, wait, you were the ones that are supposed to have it all figured out. And they were from 22 all the way up to 75. And his speech was, we all have different paths. We all change over the course of your life. Because, like, as I mentioned, it's not necessarily who you were when you started. And, maybe that wouldn't be the right path for you ultimately, but it was the path at the time. So how do we fail forward fast? Because that's the question, right? So here, let me give you some examples of some brands who have done it. All of these products were created by a mistake. Some of the most widely selling products, Teflon and sticky glue and Post-it notes and Slinkies and Play-Doh, that wasn't what the intention was. They were actually trying to create something else. But that happened in the middle. So sometimes we might be going for one thing. For me, I wanted to play on the Olympic volleyball team. I don't know why I thought I was qualified coming from Montana, but I had that dream. I never made it to the national team, but I made it to Nike. So even though I was casting myself in one direction, something else pretty cool came up in between. So innovating is something that is inbred in the Nike DNA. So I love this story. There was a designer that I work with pretty closely who was in Miami on spring break, sitting under the palm trees, watching them sway back and forth. He has this inspiration for this shoe, the Nike Sky Sole. It goes on to become the best selling running shoe I think that Nike's ever had, and now it's called the Air Max Plus. Basically Foot Locker built their whole business on the back of them. In fact, he was quoted as saying, one time I even saw it's gotten so famous and so prolific that I saw some guy who had actually tattooed his entire foot with that shoe because he loved it. But before that, Nike was trying, they were into running, but in the early 80s, they tried bowling, they tried perfume, they tried all these other things that, eventually Phil Knight's like, this isn't working. We need to go back to running. Bill Bowerman, my track coach at University of Oregon, was the inspiration for this brand. We're going to focus on our mission, which is to serve athletes. If we go off and do all these other tangents, we're going to do nothing well. So when they got clear on who they were, and they've veered off the path a couple times now that, being a $50 billion business, they can kind of take more liberties. But earlier on, when it was really, really huge competitive with Adidas, they had to really focus on and Reebok for that matter, focus on who they were. So if you think about your 20-year vision, which again, I'm not expecting you to be like, I know exactly what I want to be doing in 20 years, but what if you translated it to today, what are my values? What am I going to do today in service of what I feel like I want to do? Am I going to work out? Am I going to meditate? Am I going to pray? Am I going to go to class? Am I going to write that paper? What is my vision around my high, hard goal? If I think I want to live overseas or, consult for a few years or go to grad school, like all of those things. And why? Why are you doing that? When you get clear on your why, the how appears. The clearer I am on my purpose for all of this, I woke up this morning, I meditated for 20 minutes, I journaled about this talk. I'm so grateful that I get to do this, right? I showed up on my why, and the how appears. And I love this little visual that shows, everybody, we have this vision that we're just going to go and it's all been this. And really, sometimes you're down in the middle of the lake. And usually what happens is when we look ahead, it looks like a straight wall up. And when we look back, it looks flat. But in reality, it's this. And this is what happens. Life ebbs and flows. It's seasonal. So on to the second part of this, which is optimistic self-talk. How much time is that little editor in your head? Well, you're never going to do that. Well, you can't. You don't have, who likes you? Who's going to hire you? Who thinks you're talented enough to do that? What are you telling yourself? Because if you hear that little editor, and maybe it's a parent, sometimes it's a teacher, sometimes it's a coach, sometimes it's yourself. But first of all, check in and hear whose voice it is you're hearing. And then it's working on not muting. We need that voice. That voice is helpful because it gets us off the couch. It gets us moving. But if it becomes, it's an 11, we need to dial it down to a 2 or a 3. So you hear it, but it doesn't paralyze you. And a lot of the teens and college athletes that I work with, they're so paralyzed by the voice in their head, they can't move forward. So how do I get out of the voice in my head? Focus on what you want to create. What we focus on expands, good or bad. We can't live in love and fear at the same time. We have to choose. So every day, every morning, we're choosing, every moment, we're choosing love or fear. I'm either going away from what I fear most, or I'm going to what I'm passionate about. And if you don't know what you're passionate about, get curious. Try some experiments. It's a research project. See where you can fail forward fast to see what's next. They're little breadcrumbs around getting you to, and the more you build, it's a muscle. The more you build it, the easier it becomes. The easier it becomes, the clearer the path. The clearer the path, the harder you work. It's momentum. So in building gratitude or optimism, step 1 is gratitude. Again, in my journal, I journal about my day, and then I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. What am I? And it can be, I'm grateful for that my dog sat in my lap this morning as I meditated. She comes over and jumps in, and we sit there for 20 minutes and we get grounded. I'm grateful that it's rainy and I get to go out and be in Mother Nature. It doesn't have to be big things. I'm grateful that I get a roof over my head and I'm going to one of the most amazing colleges in the United States. Like what amazing gift to be taught by these great professors. Another one I love is random acts of kindness. There's an article, I don't know, 5-6 years ago at a coffee, it wasn't Starbucks, but Tim Hortons up in Canada, and 129 cars paid it forward. I'll buy the guy's coffee behind me. I'll buy the guy's coffee behind me. I'll buy. What does it cost you? It costs you nothing to help a teammate up off the ground, to talk to a kid sitting next to you in the class that you've never met before. Hey, nice to see you today, right? Paying that forward, that high tides raise all boats, and that energy is infectious. And watch what happens when you put out that energy. it comes back at you twice as fast, and it's really fun. Laughing out loud. Kids laugh out loud about 130 times a day. You guys are getting into that adulthood phase where we laugh less than 15 times a day. What gets us out of our cortisol going down and our endorphins going up? Laughter. Changing your state, getting out of your head and into your body. So finding fun ways to laugh and be silly and enjoy. Minding your words is minding what's, again, with that editor in your head. What is she saying to you? What is he telling you? What are they saying about who you are? And if they're not giving you good feedback, or you're not thinking positive things about someone else, that's the environment that you're creating. And everybody, raising your endorphin levels by getting sweaty, moving your body, whether it's walking across campus, going over Crimdell, getting to the Wren building today, I'm going to walk down Dog Street, like getting out of your mind. And just, I put on great podcasts. Again, I'll share with you, just letting that go. I live in LA. I live in my car. So I feel like I have a PhD because every time I get in my car, I've got something that's inspiring me to listen to, you know, and that's what I like. Oh, when I get home, I want to write this about this. And that's what helps me create ideas. So with that optimistic self-talk, you know, design, it really is, you know, these three things to put it all together. So think like a designer, think about your life like a designer, prototype some potential lives. So you could do the exercise to do, which is fun, is prototype your life right now. So what if I just kept doing what I was doing for the next 5 years? Just go 5 years out. The next 5 years, what would my life look like in 5 years? And then step down to number 3, prototype your life as if the craziest thing ever happened. I just moved to Bali and I'm running a tiki hut and whatever you're crazy. I'm now the CEO of Apple. I'm now whatever your crazy version of that's never going to happen. You know, my version is I'd love to be on a TED Talk that gets, you know, that gets my message out. Well, who's going to do that? Well, I am if I put myself in the position of making that happen. So prototype some kind of same path, crazy path, and then somewhere in between. And here's what happens. As you go through what happens is your brain goes, well, that's crazy. This is normal. And you basically do kind of meet in the middle. But what happens if I just stay with, well, this is easy. This is safe. I'm just going to go for the safe option. You don't get that opportunity to grow and explore and learn and figure out what's truly your calling, right? And then when it doesn't work out, it's okay. It's failure. It's not, I mean, we have this big F word. Oh, heaven forbid we fail. No, that's what this whole journey is about, is iterating and trying. And when it goes well, woohoo, have that friend that you call that like, wow, that really went well. And when that doesn't go well, wow, that was interesting. Now I'm going to have to pivot and try something else. Which, speaking of that, like finding your people that are really positive that can help you pivot when the things don't go well. So what is a well-designed life? It's curiosity. It's taking action. It's allowing you to say, okay, let's try something. It's reframing when it doesn't go the way you were hoping it would. It's building awareness, and then it's radical collaboration. It's finding those people that can help you. There's somebody out there doing what you want to do, or has tried it, or has, you know, knows somebody that can put you in talk connection. So self-talk, being really grounded in the present. We spend 90% of our day living in the future of the past. Well, remember when that really happened? And so because my 3rd grade teacher told me I was horrible in math, that's why I'm not majoring in math. Ancient history. And, oh, well, I really want to work at X brand, but they're probably not relevant. The only thing is relevant is what's going on right now. What am I doing today that's going to help me move? And if I'm not, what do I need to look at to help move the needle? We are driven, our conscious brain is about 5% of us, right? Our subconscious is driving everything we do. The conscious brain is the order taker. The subconscious brain is the order giver. So if you think about that, a lot of what we do every day, we're not even aware we're doing it. We're just kind of, you know, it's something that, I have this pattern. I have this story going on in my head about how I got here. And this is why I do what I do. So when my husband and I both worked at Nike, Evan worked on the basketball side. He worked with Kobe. When Kobe kind of had his stumble and fall from grace, nobody wanted to tell him, you're not getting a signature shoe. So Evan, you need to fly down to Los Angeles and tell him that that's not going to happen. And he said, what was amazing when I was down there delivering the bad news was the good news or the interesting, what I learned about Kobe and how he thinks is, he said, this isn't the first time I've stumbled. In fact, I've had haters all my life. And actually was born, there's a great ad called The Wall. And he said, this is what I do. When something doesn't go the way I want, somebody says, oh, he's tired. He doesn't have focus. You're burnt. You're mental. You're stubborn. He goes, I write it on the wall and then I assign a workout to it. And I focus, because I best focus when I'm mad and I'm fired up, and you have to figure out what motivates you. Are you happy or are you angry? But when you can figure out what really motivates you, in his case, it fired him up. He's like, I'm going to work harder. I'm going to show them. When he got into the league, he wasn't starting. He wasn't playing much. He said, obviously I need to get better. It wasn't, well, woe is me. And, he's not as good as we thought. Take control, own that. And when he owned it, things shifted. We spend most of our day in our logical brain and verbal and order and math and doing and thinking and this, and we need to spend more time in our right brain, creating, seeing the big picture, having music, having art, having time to write, having time to think about what we like. So I highly encourage you, if you don't have a morning routine yet, create one. It needs to be yours. Because what happens is either you run your day, you set your intentions for the day and you go, or your day runs you. How did it go? Well, I don't know, but I had to do the workout and then I had class and then I had another workout, and it happens. It comes at you so fast, you're drinking through the fire hose. But when you set your intention for the day, even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's sitting down, writing 3 gratitudes and writing down the 3 things you need to get done today, I'm taking control. I'm driving how I'm going to show up. And when I do that, amazing things happen. And I'm really controlling the narrative. So speaking of, the last piece is really persevering over adversity. If you think it's just you're going to apply to one job and you're going to get it, and then it may happen. I wish you luck. And if it does, please, let me know. And I want to cheer you on, because it's really, 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 really rare. For most of us, it'll be a story of adversity. And if you've never read Shoe Dog, and I drank the Kool-Aid for 15 years, but it's a wonderful story about adversity. I mean, the company nearly went under dozens of times, not just once or twice. But the original, that Nike has these maxims now, which you'll see on the right, but the original maxims, they wrote down their mission a long time ago. Like, that's Phil Knight's on a typewriter back in 1972 saying, this is our business. This is who we are. He didn't just show up and a $50 billion business was born. He had mission, vision, and values around what he wanted this to stand for. And they went off course, as I mentioned earlier. Things went wrong. They nearly lost everything. They made bad product. They hired bad people. All of that happens. But if you keep coming back to, what is my mission? What is my vision? How do we create that? That's when you'll wayfind, as they say, with the designing your life. So Kirsten, that's all great. We love that you've got these 3 tools, but how? How do we do that? So this is the how. This is the work that only you can do. And when you do the work, beautiful things happen. But you can't talk about doing the work. Yeah, I heard about that meditation thing and whatever. When you apply these principles to your life, things shift. If you listen to any entrepreneur, any business leader, any, Oprah to whoever, Tony Robbins to whoever, they'll tell you they have a morning routine and they have principles that they apply to their life every day. And the metaphor I like to use is, you can either be the thermometer, which is it's 85, it's 22, it's 72, and you can go through life reacting to everybody, the environment around you, or you can set the temperature and be the thermostat. Maybe it goes up to 72, maybe it goes down to 62, 68. And I'm not talking about, you can't control the world around you, but you can control how you react to it. We don't get to control what happens to us, but we get to control how we respond. So all of these tools here on the left, having a meditation or mindfulness practice. If you don't, I highly recommend downloading Calm or Headspace or I'm sure there's another dozen apps now that do that. But even just listening, again, what are you listening to when you're trying to get into that creative space? Do you have any mantras? I have a mantra around the kind of giving myself, because I'm hard on myself. I want to do well. And if I don't do well, I love you, I bless you, I forgive you, I release you. I didn't get that goal done today. I love you, I bless you, it's okay. We don't have to do everything perfectly. I get to do it again tomorrow if I'm lucky, right? What are the affirmations that you're saying about, if you're an athlete, what do you say when you step on the pitch? What do you say when you serve that volleyball? What do you say when you get in the pool? When you walk into that classroom, what are you saying about, I'm going to crush this class, or gosh, I just hope to get through this, right? How are you affirming yourself? Get some Post-it notes, write them down, put them on your window, put them all over your mirror. And it doesn't count if you just write it down and you never look at it and you don't really believe in it. When you write something down and it kind of makes you like almost want to throw up, like, oh, wow, what if that actually happened? What if I hit that goal? Like, that would be amazing. Those are the ones that you're like, oh, okay, I'm onto something. I'm onto something that matters to me. Because here's what we do. We're humans. So we say one thing, we do another. I'm going to get an A in this class, but I'm going to sleep in. I'm going to, get that job, but I'm not going to do the work. That's human nature. There's nothing wrong with you. That's what we do as humans. But these tools can help you. It's not about being perfect. It's not about, oh, I'm going to create this one habit. It's about building the muscle that this is who I am from the inside out. This is how I show up every day. And when I do this, I get good outcomes. So I'm going to keep showing up. What are you writing about? Sometimes we have a lousy day. Write about it. That was awful. And, the teacher was horrible and I flunked the test and I'm fighting with my mom. And sometimes and we just need to get it out. And maybe you don't want to talk to anybody about it. Get it out on the page so that you can release it. Because when it sits inside of you, it only eats you from the inside out. What are your daily rituals? What are you doing every day? Are you working out? Are you meditating? Are you doing things that give you, and because I can tell you right now, honestly, is probably and you probably hear it all the time, the easiest time of your life. You have time to do other things. Set these, if you walk away and just take these principles right now, I guarantee you 30 years from now, if you apply them, you'll be still using them and you'll be doing something entirely different. But you're like, wow, I've incorporated those into my daily life and they've helped me show up. Your tribe of five, maybe people maybe people that are dead, but somebody who inspires you that you're like, wow, I love everything that person said. I love who they stood for. They're a hero of mine. So when you're looking for answers, tap into them. What would so-and-so say about this? What would, this leader say about that? And obviously they can be people who if there's people that inspire you, and then there are people that, the bottom one is you need to release some people. There are some people that they want you to succeed, but they're afraid of you taking risks and leaving them behind. So some people, do you ever notice you go to a person, you're like, this happened to me. And they're like, oh, well, whatever. Well, gee, I thought you were my friend. If you have somebody like that in your life, you need to cut the emotional cord with them. They might still be a relative. They might still be a good friend. You can still be in their same space, but you need to be focused on your tribe of five, those people who are giving you energy. You only have so much energy in a day. So those people get my emotional real estate. The people who are sucking and draining emotional vampires, I'm sorry. I love you. I bless you. I forgive you. I release you. And I wish you well. The little stuff is the big stuff. Because well over 40% of what we do is a habit every day. Jerry Seinfeld, very, very famous comedian. Everybody said, how did you do it, Jerry? How do you do it? He says, every morning I get up, I journal 20 minutes jokes. I don't edit them. I don't critique them. I don't think about them. I just write the jokes down. I cross it off on my calendar and I go on about my day. And then 3 months later, I'll get a phone call. Jerry, we need you to do a set. I go into my book of 200 jokes and I pick out the 5 I need or whatever, the 8 I need. I don't have to now create. Oh gosh, I've got a set. I've got to go do it. I'm creating all the time. And in an environment where my stress is down and I'm just having fun with it. What are you doing today in service of that goal? This video went viral a couple months ago, and I don't know if you've seen it, but if you haven't, I highly recommend you look into it. But the Duke women's basketball coach talked about this in terms of it's going to get easier. Well, once I get into William & Mary, then it's going to get easier. Once I get that job, then it's going to get easier. Then once I get here, then it's not going to get easier. You're going to get better at doing hard better. And when we choose to do hard better, opportunities show up. When you're pursuing something you're passionate about, it's not going to be easy, but you're going to lean into that discomfort and you're going to up level and you're going to find what's new and exciting and next along the way. So I want to thank you so much for showing up for me, and I can feel your energy. I wish I could be with you in person, but please connect with me. Please, if there's any questions you have, I'm on all of these places, right? Find me, message me, set up some time. Let's chat. So thank you so much. And I see there might be a few questions.
Thank you, Kirsten. What an awesome presentation again. As always, you're amazing. And we do have a couple questions, and I know we're tight on time, so I'll do my best to get those to you. Are there moments in your life where you felt like you lost the script or could not see your why clearly? In particular, how did you cut through that fog in those moments?
Oh, what a good question. Yes. In fact, right when I walked out of William & Mary was the first one, because I remember one of my favorite professors, and I said, I don't have a job and I don't know what I'm going to do. And you know what? She said, well, here's what you need to do. You just need to get a job. And it doesn't matter what, it doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter. She said, because what you're going to learn is either you like it or you hate it. And if you like it, go in that direction. And if you hate it, now you know one thing you don't want to do. And I didn't have a direction. I had two sisters who were living in Budapest, Hungary at the time. I ended up moving to Eastern Europe, of all places, with my Japanese degree. And my parents were thinking, what are you doing with your life? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm making it up as I go along. A lot of life is wayfinding, and that's okay. And that's what I hope that message got through is I know several of you, or many of you, have that path or have an idea of that path. But I think, again, if you don't, yes, there have been many steps where, and then I got to Hungary and I taught English and I played some volleyball and I was a personal trainer, and it took me a year and a half. I thought, well, I guess I'll go get my MBA, because I didn't know what else I wanted to do. But eventually I met this man in an Irish pub who happened to be from Eugene, Oregon. And he said, I want to go to Nike. I want to work for Nike. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's figure that out. And that, I showed up on their doorstep. I sent him a letter. They said, oh, we might be hiring in a couple of weeks. I said, actually, I'll be in Vienna tomorrow. Anyway, lie. I jumped on the train. I showed up at their doorstep and they hired me. And a lot of life is just showing up and, again, figuring it out. And if it doesn't work out, okay, at least I tried.
Love it. And what a week to start off. What a great way to start off this week with this enthusiasm and just trying and getting involved and stepping into your career development. Next question up is, when you think back to when you really drilled down what your daily rituals, habits were, what were they, and what were your reasons for doing them? And are they the same now as they were then?
I had no habits in college, so I'm not going to tell you, oh yeah, I've been doing this since college. No, this has really been a journey I've been on really in the last 7 or 8 years, when I'd already left Nike. So it didn't even happen at Nike, but I knew I was mentoring others and I loved that. And then I'm a team sports girl. I played team sports all my life. So I was I was curious about that. And of course, getting back to that, but no, the habits came through. I was starting to research, like I had this idea that I wanted to write a book. And so I started researching different things. And then I had this idea around meditation, and this woman who lives in New York, I literally went on her website and she was teaching in LA that day. And so I was like, okay, I'm showing up. And I showed up and I got certified and spent more money than I had to get the certification. I was like, okay, I'm not telling my husband I'm doing this because we can't afford it, but I'm going to go do it anyway. And it stuck because I took a risk. I was a little uncomfortable. And do I meditate every day religiously? No, but I started to build that muscle. And then I got curious about, I podcast. It's not sexy. I don't do the best job. I'm just going to keep trying it and see what happens. And that started working. And then I've been writing the book for 7 years and I failed. It didn't go anywhere. And I hired somebody else and that didn't work. And then I finally found this book coach who I collaborated with. It's not been a straight line. And then I couldn't get it. I pitched it to over 30 publishers. I got one no and crickets, like nothing. And we said, well, nobody's really written that book. You're not going to really find that. It's not really relevant, blah, blah, blah. How bad do you want it? How much are you willing to show? It's evolving, to your question. It's evolving every day. And that's why I could tell you, again, I've shared a little bit with what I do, but it's not even really relevant for you. I mean, it is, but you need to figure out. Some people like, I want to get up and I exercise right away. Other people are like, no, I need to pray first or meditate or journal first. So try different things. Be curious.
Love it. Be curious. I think that's definitely a theme of many things in life. We have some great questions. I know we're not going to get to everyone's questions. So if you want, we'll try to answer these with Kirsten, and maybe in the follow-up email, make sure we can get some additional responses. But and I'm going to turn things over in a few minutes here to my co-partner, Kelly O'Shaughnessy, to close things out. But before that, what is the best piece of advice that you ever received? I mean, maybe that's a tough one, because I'm sure you've gotten a lot of advice over the years, but and then I'll add another piece to this, is sort of what podcasts and books do you recommend that you're enjoying these days? Oh, look, you already have it prepared. This is terrific. So I'll let you answer those two questions for now.
Very wonderful. Yes, thank you for asking. So yes, this is all on my website too. So if you go onto KirstenJonesInc.com, you can find all of these. So don't have to write them all down, but yes, and again, it kind of goes in waves. Like you're wanting to figure something out. So you're attracted to certain topics, and then you just kind of go deep on that. So sometimes I'm only listening to Hidden Brain, and because I'm loving all the psychology and then sometimes I'm listening to a parenting one. And so it goes in waves around what you do. But the best advice I ever received is be opportunistic, go for it. Right. And my father, who was my hero, who passed away 4 years ago, I can still hear him in my head. Here, go for it. When I wanted to transfer from San Diego State because I was miserable to William and Mary, just see what happens, right? Take a swing at it. Call the company, write the company, show up on their doorstep, that you go talk to that professor whose class you really want to get into, but you're not old enough to be in this class or whatever. Like, I love those stories of those people that just showed up and said, and then it didn't necessarily work out right away. I had a woman on the podcast, she's coming next week, who she started off as a swimmer. She got to college, okay swimmer, okay runner, then USA Triathlon found her and said, you're actually a great swimmer for a triathlete, you're a great runner for a triathlete. She's the first woman to win the Olympic gold in Rio in the triathlon. She was an average swimmer and an average runner. But she had a growth mindset. She was not afraid to say, oh, wow, okay, I'm not going to make it in the Olympics in swimming, but maybe I can do it in something else.
So one more question before we turn things over. Do you have a journal style or template you follow, or is it open flow writing?
So my style is from several different, again, I've been amalgamating different things that I read. I read a book probably 6 years ago, where the women talked about every morning from a business perspective, you go in and you meet with your CEO, your CMO, your CFO, you have a business meeting to set up your day. So why don't I have a meeting? So every morning I have a meeting with my CSO, my Chief Spiritual Officer. Okay, it sounds hokey, but checking in with yourself. So I journal in co-collaboration with this higher power. Some of this stuff, again, that's the how. I don't have to worry about the how. What am I doing? Who am I reaching out to? What am I doing in service of this goal? So I journal free flow. And then I have a section of to-dos because I love lists. And, then I get to cross them off. And if I get 5 of them crossed off and 5 of them I get to carry over, I look at the end of the day. All right, I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to do that tomorrow. It didn't all work out, but and some days you like, woohoo, I nailed 10 out of 10. Some days I got 2. Some days I'm just going to sit on the couch. It's not a recipe for 100% success, but it, again, at least sets your intention for the day and your mindset on what it is I want to go after versus let's see what happens.
Well, I am pumped. You're a coach for all of us this week. Really appreciate it, Kirsten. Now, my great partner, Kelly and colleague, Kelly O'Shaughnessy, is going to share a few remarks and close things out for the hour.
Thank you.
Great, Kirsten, thank you so much for your time and sharing the resources, the strategy, and really just your energy with today's session. And we appreciate all the time you put into putting this together so that it was specific to our William and Mary community about managing and growing your brand, and knowing that that really starts with you having to do the work for yourself. To all the participants today, we have shared the link to Kirsten's website in the chat, so you can access that. And we expect that you've gained a new perspective today around your personal brand and how you can help take charge of your career at any stage. As Michael mentioned in the beginning, these sessions throughout the week will incorporate the NACE career competencies, and today's focus has really been on career and self-development and professionalism. And you can see a full list of the competency connections on the Learning Objectives page of the Professional Development Week website, as well as it will be linked in follow-up emails you'll receive soon. When this meeting closes, you'll have access to a quick survey so you can share your thoughts on this portion of Professional Development Week. But additionally, we really want you to take some time for yourself and jot down a couple of things that you learned new today. Hopefully you were taking notes throughout, but highlight some of the things that were new for you today and make 1 to 3 action steps for yourself that you're going to do after having listened to Kirsten's session. Also, later today, we have a session on recession-proofing your job search with a lot of great tips about using LinkedIn as the most effective way possible. And be sure to tune in for that. You can still register for that event today. You'll get the Zoom link when you register. But keep in mind that we have a full list of sessions throughout the week, including a networking hour on Friday. After learning from all of our community members throughout the week, we want you to also take the opportunity to connect one-on-one with other members of the community and follow up and grow your network across our own William and Mary network. So be sure to register to join for that as well. And with that, I believe we're going to close today's session.
Can I quickly just say, anybody who wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I would love to connect with you. Please send me your questions or comments, or would love to connect. And I saw somebody ask, will this be replay? And yes, they're sending everything out in replay, so you can share it.
Yes, and whatever questions we did not get to today, we'll be sharing with Kirsten to include in that wrap-up email you'll get in a couple of weeks.
Fabulous.
Thank you so much,
Kelly.
Kirsten.
Great to see you.